or at least have entered into some form of alliance or tactical cooperation. Although admittedly improbable in the near term, such a rapprochement would make a lot of sense for both groups, and would no doubt result in a threat that, according to a particularly knowledgeable U.S. intelligence analyst, whom I queried about such a possibility, would be an absolute and unprecedented disaster for the USG and our allies. Poor predictions. The United States suffers collective amnesia where terrorism and counterterrorism policy are concerned. After all, it was only recently that the conventional wisdom inside the Beltway was that the bloody split between Al Qaeda and ISIS would consume, neuter, and ultimately destroy both groups. The conventional wisdom on Al Qaeda has rarely been correct anyway, so it is not surprising that this particular expectation has proved to be little more than wishful thinking. And that is reason enough to explore why an Al Qaeda-ISIS merger is not as far-fetched as some wishfully contend. There are at least 4 arguments that render this scenario plausible. First, the ideological similarities between ISIS and Al Qaeda are more significant than the differences. Both groups fundamentally adhere to the principle first articulated by Al Qaeda founding member Abdullah Azzam 3 decades ago. It is an obligation for Muslims everywhere to come to the defense of their brethren wherever they are threatened and endangered. In Azzam's mind, as in bin Laden's and current Al Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri's and ISIS leader Baghdadi's, an aggressive, predatory war is being waged against Islam by its enemies. Those enemies are broadly conceived as infidels and non-believers, including the Western democratic liberal state, the corrupt and repressive Western-backed local apostates, and the Shia and other Muslim minorities. In this inevitable clash of civilizations, it is incumbent upon all Muslims to come to the defense of the worldwide Muslim community. The need for global jihad to defeat Islam's supposed enemies is thus an integral aspect of both Al Qaeda's and ISIS ideology and mindset. Both movements, moreover, share the view that the Western state system is inimical to the imposition of Sharia, Islamic law. ISIS, for instance, regularly inveighs against democracy as that wicked methodology. In that regard, the group reflects Al Qaeda's own long-standing view of this system of governance. Like Al Qaeda, ISIS also rails against the West's control over Muslims' most precious natural resources, oil and natural gas fields, and the established order's creation and support of corrupt, compliant local apostate regimes that facilitate continued exploitation and expropriation. Like Al Qaeda in years past, ISIS similarly invites Western military intervention in Muslim lands, which the group believes will enervate the local regime's militaries and economies. If you fight us, ISIS proclaimed in 2014, we become stronger and tougher. If you leave us alone, we grow and expand. Second, the differences that do exist between ISIS and Al Qaeda are rooted more in clashing egos and tone than in substance. For now, the most salient impediment to reconciliation is the strong personal enmity and vicious rivalry between Baghdadi and Zawahiri. It is patently obvious that they loathe one another. Their dispute, however, seems to be predicated mostly on timing and process. In a nutshell, Zawahiri still argues that the far enemy has to be eliminated, and Muslim lands completely cleansed of Western and other corrupt local influences before the caliphate can be established. Baghdadi, as the events of June 2014 showed, saw no reason to wait, and instead took the offensive by attacking near enemies both in Syria and Iraq, and declaring himself caliph. The two men's styles also differ. Baghdadi has created a cult of personality around himself that luxuriates in death and dismemberment. He's more reminiscent of the Khmer Rouge's Pol Pot, or the Tamil Tigers' Valupi.